episode number 1, the Quilt Idaho FlossTube.
FlossTube, Quilt Tube. So I'm Danielle Alba, and I am a co-owner of the Quilt Idaho, and this is my husband Blake Baxter, and he is also co-owner of the Quilt Idaho, and Blake is going to start by giving you a quick synopsis of what our business is for anyone who's not familiar with the Quilt Idaho, and then we'll get going.
Yay. So the Quilt Idaho is, as with most businesses in this space, a mom and pop shop. So
Hi, Mom.
And I'm the pop. So anyways, so the Quilt Idaho is basically 3 parts. So we have a retreat that is more or less a vacation rental for quilters and people that like to sew and craft. Embroiderers. We've had some diamond art painters up here.
Jewelry makers. Knitters. Crocheters.
Things like that.
Scrapbookers.
Things that you can, kind of do on a desk and not make a lot of mess, or at least be able to clean it up afterwards without
We make a lot of mess.
soap and water. So anyways, that is the Quilt Idaho. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. We accommodate 7 guests, and for the most part, we don't provide any food or anything like that. Guests can use our kitchen, and other than that, they rent out the whole facility and they have a good time. Most folks stay about 3 or 4 nights, but yeah, we only have a 2-night minimum. You can check us out, quiltidaho.com, for all of our accommodation information. So that's the first part of the business. The second part is the long arm, and so we offer pickup and drop off of we'll pick up of quilt tops and drop off of quilts in the Treasure Valley. So that's more or less like the Boise metro area, Ada County, Canyon County, and a few other places. So we're down there all the time, and we are more than willing to pick up and drop off quilts. We also do mail order as well, so you can send us your quilts. Danielle can long arm them and send them back. She does offer finishing services such as binding and things like that. The third piece of our business is an online shop, so e-commerce. We sell threads, Aurifil threads, and we have bolts of fabrics and pre-cuts, notions, and other things that are available on our site, quiltidaho.com.
Yeah,
So.
we also have a small site on Etsy for people who like using Etsy. So that was the long spiel about our regular business. I used to teach college biology before we started doing all this. Blake is an IT guy. He still has his full-time IT job. We have 2 daughters. One is 1 year old and the other is 2. You'll probably hear about them a lot. So we're trying to fit this in basically when they're sleeping. So bear with us. Like, we were going to start last night, and then our daughter Violet, that's our 2-year-old, decided not to go to bed till like 9, so we were too exhausted to start that. So first question, probably the most obvious: why are we using Twitch? So I'm following the example of Mary Fawns. She is a well-known quilter, and she's really big into quilt history stuff. She has a Twitch channel, and I'm following her example because it sounds like Twitch is a really good platform to use because, one, I really like the idea of having live interaction. So if you have a Twitch account, you can come on here while we're live and you can message, or you can participate in the chat there, and we can answer you live. Another reason is, from what I've heard, Twitch is a pretty friendly group of people, and it just seems to be more of a community kind of feel to it. We're still going to be recording the videos, though, and putting them onto YouTube so that the majority of people who use YouTube can find us there. And then we encourage you to come try Twitch and join us live in the future if you're so willing to. Will we be doing, I should probably go to, why do we keep talking about quilt stuff if it's a floss tube? So I consider myself an intermediate quilter and a beginner cross-stitcher. I've cross-stitched on and off since I was 7, but I'm just starting to get into more hardcore cross stitching, so to speak, and really learning the culture. And so I'm considering adding it to our business, having some cross stitch supplies, and yeah, making it another branch of our business. There's no close needle shop around here. The one I go to right now is about 90 minutes away. So I think there would be a lot of people in the area that would appreciate having the supplies. But with that, I want to learn more about the community. So if you are a beginner cross stitcher, this is a good place to be. If you're an experienced cross stitcher, this is also a good place to be because maybe you can help me learn. So I watch a lot of FlossTube. We live up in Centerville, Idaho, which is up in the boonies in the mountains above Boise. So it's pretty isolated. During the
boonies.
yeah. So when we're literally on top of a mountain, which is great scenery and beauty for the retreats. It can be a bit isolating though for two young parents. I take care of the girls. We live on the same property as the retreat building. They're separate buildings, but we're like a few yards away from each other. We live in an above garage apartment. So during the day when Blake is working from home on his IT stuff, I take care of the girls. So I do a lot of cross stitching and quilting during that time just to keep myself sane. So I really appreciate all the floss tubers I've seen out there. You guys are really a lot of company for me. I really appreciate Mary Fons and her quilt nerd because I'm also a history nerd as well. So I really like not just the craft, so to speak, side of quilting and cross stitch, but the history side I'm really, really into. So I want to incorporate in this channel, my intentions are to have both cross stitch and quilting stuff. So if you're kind of a hybrid cross stitch quilter, this is a good place for you. If you're one or the other and you want to learn about the other, this is also a great place for you. So that being said, I have a lot of in our apartment because that's where I am most of the day and probably the easiest for me to be able to set up. 2 is in my long arm room, which is in that same building, but it's kind of harder to get downstairs. And then 3 is in the retreat, but during the retreat season, which is starting basically right now, this building is going to be more. We'll probably be going up and around the place and figure out exactly what we're doing. Are we going to do giveaways? I hope so eventually. We just have to wait till it's financially able to do those so we get enough viewers and enough followers and everything. So just an FYI. So on YouTube, our videos and subscribe like you would any other YouTube. On Twitch, it's a little different. To the equivalent of subscribing or basically following our channel on Twitch is to hit the follow button. You hit subscribe on Twitch, paid thing. So you're paying of a tip, I guess, and pay for things like this and that supports us as creators and makers. Subscribing or want to support us, we greatly appreciate you. Anyone appreciate. Please consider subscribing and liking videos. That gives us making them. So, our time's pretty limited with having a business, Blake having a full job, us being on a big property, and most of all having little girls. So we try to use our time most wisely. So we're hoping we'll get a good response for this, and we can keep going. So what on the traditional? Let me translate these. All things you're buying, which is the UFO and quilting, which is the projects we're working on. FFOs, from my understanding, is finally finished object or fully finished object. So I have a few of those to show to you guys. What else? I promote some things. I love this stuff. Obviously, we like to learn about. Introduction of what we're doing. So yeah, let's just get started with the actual content. So we'll start with some FOs, on some current whips, and then purchase, which Blake mostly doesn't know about. That will be fun too. Unravel front on camera, and then I've been reading and listening to. I'm books because we live about 90 minutes from town. So a lot of driving. It's hard to sit down and read a book with the girls around. And the best listen in the park down times a week. So that kind of keep happy. Recent the first one is called the late early spring because the weather gets to me this time of year. It's snowing here. Like literally, it snowed today, 4,300 feet. It snows for a while. I'm a little worried because I don't want the snow to scare our up cheers by any means, but I am totally ready to decide to go on a hike. We used to usually during the bad months we hike up and down on the mountain almost every day, and I miss doing that. So cross stitch is a nice way for me to kind of get around that icky. I never liked March since I grew up in Wisconsin, and it's around for me. So cross stitch kind of helps with that, and then I watch all the FlossTubers and know what they're up to, which is encouraging for me. I really like the community, and quilters, I really like the community as well. So the first one I'm going to show you, I tend to finish, or I have been finishing things in shadow boxes because obviously cross stitch can be kind of three-dimensional once you have it mounted, but I like having glass in front of it of keeping it complete. So these are shadow boxes. I've been learning from on the house about more about mounting finishing. This is the Quilty Love. I'm sorry if the color, obviously it's quilt themed, cross stitch. So I like using these kinds of things to decorate the retreat with. Sorry, Blake, I'm gonna to decorate the retreat with. Bear with us. This is our first time making something in Twitch, so we don't really know what we're doing yet, and we'll figure it out as we go. So this was a I guess Valentine's-y kind of project, but I'm gonna put it up somewhere in the retreat, kind of vintage. I'll probably put it in there. I think people the Lori Holt library cards to help keep track of what's on the project. I'm a big in history make because history is a big deal to use. But you never know who you one of the kind of side things I do with my quilting business is I do quilt repair and restoration, and I love it because one, I have the puzzle challenge of it, but two, it keeps generations of people from throwing away the work of previous generations of the family. It puts it in a position that they can keep it around. I try to put labels on it and everything so that further generations can keep it and keep that history. So I try to document the stuff I do as best. I know at the end of a project, sometimes that's the last thing you want to work on, but I'm a big celebrator of that. So on the card, I have Quilty Love, completed by Danielle All 3/15/23. So this is a very pattern Quilty Love by so Emma. I'm supposed to be Lori Holt on there. DMC flosses, made for decoration in Quilt Idaho. I use lace trim by Lori Holt from Bee in My Bonnets. Fabrics are by Bounce that I use. Stitch fabric, no, I think this is a chunk I had from my stash. Oh, the fabric I collected at the Guild of America Boise's Stash Exchange, and that was during my first attendance of that meeting. So thank you, EGA Boise, for the fabric that went into this. Woo, woo, woo. Sorry. Yeah. Seeing this stuff makes him understand why when I say things like museum glass in the future, he'll understand the value of it. Okay, the next one. So I have several to show you just because some of these I've finished stitching a while ago and I just finally got them put into a mount or something. This is a Lori Holt pattern. It's called Sew by Row. The problem I had a original shadow box to put it in, but it was like 1/2 inch too wide. So I ended up having to get this bigger shadow box, which I don't like how empty it looks. So I'm going to be gradually adding more to the shadow box. That's another reason I like shadow boxes, is because all the little doodads and things I can collect with the work. I can put with it for display without having it just like laying around all the time. So this is Sew by Row cross stitch, completed by me. I think I finished the stitching in 2021. I'll set it down so I can, yeah. And then I actually mounted it just recently, 2023, patterned by Lori Hoft. I used Weeks Dye Works floss on it. Again, made it for display over here. I have the same quilt kit, and I did a row of it when I first got it, that scissor row, and the pieces were so tiny and tedious that it was a lot. So I'm really kind of working up the nerve to keep working on that. But maybe now that I have the cross stitch mounted and up, I'll get a little more motivated to work on it. So this will eventually go with the quilt on the bed that the quilt ends up with. So I like being able to have a cross-stitch version of the quilts I do. I think it's kind of cute. What else? I think it's 14 count Ada. And backing fabric is by Stitching with the Housewives. I think it's Priscilla's Pretty Plaids. So, yeah. And then the trim is Lori Holt's Bee in My Bonnet. So we'll put that library card back. Okay. Ooh. So I think one of the reasons why I was in and out of cross stitch for the majority of my life is because one, my mom's a cross stitcher, but she does the stamped cross stitch. So she would buy the, Joanne.
Viewer.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of terrifying.
Hello,
viewer. You're our first viewer ever. No pressure. So say hi. We'll say hi back. Thank you for joining us. So my mom would always buy cross stitch kits like at Joanne's or whatever, and I'm kind of allergic to the weird Scotch Guard stuff they put on it, so I'd always get really itchy by the time I was done working on it, and I was never really in love with the patterns. They had the very 80s, 90s vibe feel. So that kind of turned me off as a kid, cross stitching. And then when I got back into it in probably grad school, maybe, I was using a lot of Ada, and I don't like the feel of Ada. So I didn't know there was anything else to work on at the time. So just learning from FlossTubers, I've learned about things like linen and Lugana, and I'm very tactile, so I really love the feeling of how they feel in my hands, and that makes me want to work on them because I enjoy the cool feeling of working on them. This one was the Fat Quarter Shop Stitching or Stronger Together. This was from I stitched it in 2021. It was their fundraiser for Make-A-Wish that year. Patterned by It's So Emma. That's Kimberly Jolly of the Fat Quarter Shop. In Black History Month, they gave it for free and I did a donation for its use. And then the donation went to that college. So I enjoyed the spinny aspect of it, and I liked being able to contribute towards a charity like that. They did have a quilt kit for it. It wasn't the quite kind of quilt kit for what I do, but I enjoyed making the cross stitch of it. Use DMC made for display up here, probably in our third room. It has a more modern feel to it. It also has more of a I like secondary colors a lot. Our vintage room is more primary colors, so the last room that has 3 beds in it is the one that I put a lot more of my purples and shades of blue and the more of this jewel toned kind of stuff. The gray mounting fabric is from Stitching with the Housewives. It's Priscilla Pretty Plaids. The crack I think is Kimberbell Designs. Not then it's Kimberbell. Put it in a little dark shadow box. Ooh. And then I got one more. And this is another one I stitched. I think one called Be My Valentine. It's a Real Housewives a cross stitch pattern. So patterned by Stitching. Patterned by Real House cross stitch. I always mix up Real Housewives cross stitch and Stitching with the Housewives, which I think is an activity they do, so to speak. I got to figure out when to use which one. I use Classic Colorworks floss, made for display in Quilt Idaho. I'm probably gonna put this maybe in the vintage room. It's supposed to be a Valentine's Day thing. I was hoping that if I left the Be Mine part out of it, I could leave it up year round. I thought it was really cute. I really liked how the variation came out with flowers. The thing I'm learning about Classic Colorworks is it's like the really light colors and the really dark colors don't show a lot of variegation in my opinion, but the mediums do. So those kind of medium reds I really like using. I think the backing fabric is by Boundless, which I don't think is around anymore. It's the Craftsy brand. You see a lot of like secondary sale kind of sites for them. It's got quite the following. So those are my recent fully finished objects. I have some more in the works. I'll show you what I've done this month that I'm waiting to finish. I'm waiting on some supplies. The first one I was super excited about, and it was a gift fail, meaning that I was making it for a gift for someone. We won't say who. We will not say who. And I fell in love with it and decided to keep it for myself. So that happens sometimes. So this one is the Home is Where the Wreath Is by Real Housewives of Cross Stitch. I fell in love with it when I started watching it on Instagram. I'm actually like using Instagram now. So it's essentially 4 little panels or 4 cross stitches that go together on a big board. I have the big board. I'm just waiting on the sticky board that I ordered to show up. Things off Amazon can take a little extra time to get up to us because we're on a mountain. So first I'll show you I used Classic Colorworks, and then I added a little bit of a white. I added some bamboo to it to just kind of make it pop out a little. But this is Classic Colorworks Black Coffee. I don't know if you can see the white or not on the bamboo. It's Zweigart 32 count Belfast Linen Platinum. Okay, so this is my first ever linen project, and I loved it. I got the linen at Maggie's on Main in Emmett. What is this? Oh, I don't need to know about that. I don't think our first viewer is a real viewer. In Emmett, and I liked digging through their stash of different linens and things. So that's the H. And then the idea is it says home across it, and then you can update the wreath part, which is the O, as the seasons go along. So this is the wreath, the kind of original wreath that goes with it that can stand in for any season. It might be upside down, maybe. I don't know. We'll see when I get it mounted. So that is the O, and then there's an M. Voila. And then an E. So it says home on the board, and then cross stitch various seasonal patterns for the wreath that you can sub out that I'm really excited about. So I'll be working on those once I get this done and some of the other projects I'm working on done, and I'll show you that when it's fully finished. And then here is another one that I've been working on forever. This was a whip that I started in 2021. Yeah, in 2021. This was their make project. Wasn't I ready about that? I get confused with something else. There's a lot going on.
Well, we were talking about the History Month one.
Yeah, there's a Black History Month project. So I did the quilt for this one, and again, I wanted to make the accompanying matching cross stitch go with it. This is definitely going to go secondary, more to my style. So this one is called was Corey Anderson of Coriander. This was again that was free on Fat Quarter to ask for after their Make a Wish campaign they do each. Yeah, the quilt. This maybe I'll show it in the future. And this is just the cross stitch version that I'm going to get mounted and put up in that same room above it. Yeah, it was kind of challenging. I'm learning that the quilt themed cross stitches are a little challenging because there's points and stars and of the coloring, but I got it done. It was on Ada. This is when I decided finishing this month. I decided I'm going to do Ada because it I feel so glad I got this one done and I get it mounted and up on a wall. You know, it's exciting to be able to update some of in the ridge for our regulars to see. Yeah. So current project. I've been neglecting duties and working on this kind of late into the night. I tend to work late into the night because that's the only time I interrupt my kids. So this is another Wives of Cross Stitch. It is America the Beautiful. I can't give too much details above this one. I've probably stayed up 2 or 3 nights now working on this one. Today I finally got to in red, which is really brightening it up quite a bit. The fabric is Lugana. I think 28 count. I'd have to look at my notes. And the color, I believe, is Mystic. It's American Real Housewives of Cross Stitch. 28 count Lugana, or Lugano. Mystic by PTP. Yeah, and I'm using, again, you'll see it in the future once it's done and mounted and I'm working on it. So that was my big project currently. Got a color to show you. This one is a Quilt Wall. My friends and I locally did Christmas gift exchange, and one made this cute wall hanging that I'm going to put in the retreat for my gift, what ended up being a gift. It's actually a panel that we sell here at the Quilt Idaho. We don't have them listed online yet. We do live sales sometimes with them. They're in Malaysian boutiques. If a boutique is a style of dyeing that is a natural person dyeing it. Most boutiques that you know of, if you're familiar, Indonesian, where they use with Malaysian boutiques and paint them like with a paintbrush. And so if you can see that, it's kind of wrinkled until we actually get a chance to hang it up. You see bamboo. So they're made by little local artisans in Malaysia, and they're small shops in their homes. So they only make little panels when they make a fabric, only like 2 to 5 yards at a time, and they make them. So if you find one that you like, you have to buy it because that's all that's in the world. Maybe thousands of yards of an Indonesian made, but there's only a few yards made by one person with a brush. And so there's a lady that I learned about who imports these from Malaysia with like 8 or 10 artisans there, and we're like one of the 10 shop for them. So it's something so unique that we do that we're trying to promote, because small business and support those artisans. It's really unique, cool. If you like you can learn out. And this one, so I'm involved with the Quilt Guild. I have an Nampa many. You can do it in person over the. We didn't go to conference, we did mail, and so I sent out mine, and I received one in return. This one was made by a gal named Jill in the Chicago area. This was the one she sent me. I told her I liked mountainy, foresty kind of stuff, and I like secondary colors, and I like half square triangles, and so she made this one, and I'm gonna hang it up in the retreat. It's a very cute tree. Close, the print, I think it's a print, has she fussy cut bears and wolves and things into the fabric. So I really like it. We're gonna put it up in the retreat. It says MQG Mini Swap 2023, Jill Brown. Thank you very much. We're gonna get put in the retreat. I'm very excited. Okay, repurchases. So the problem with a lot of is you start getting really interested in cross-related stuff. So, April linen I have on me right now. Real Housewives coming out. I just a pattern called Honeybee Garden, and everybody's loving it. It's adorable. It's huge. We're gonna learn how to put up photos and things during these floss tubes for you to see, so I can show you pictures and stuff of stuff that I don't have in hand in the back. That's one of the cool things you can do with Twitch. I'm really excited about, but we're learning how to use software still. I bought the Mystic Luna, which I showed you for America Beautiful. I bought the Platinum linen that we use to make the home is where the wreath is, and then I bought a fun silver one that I'm going to use with a new pattern that came out, I think, for market this year. It's a really pretty sample, I believe. Look at that. I'm excited about it. Now, dash somewhere. So 2023 Beauty Fades. I bought the pattern in Emmett, Idaho. Patriotic Small by Twin. Got the PDF and I downloaded it. I like working on PDF charts because I use them on my iPad and blow them up, and I can get them right away because, like I said, we live in a really isolated area, so I can't just run out to the needle shop at any given time to go pick something up. I can't carry and I can keep them on my iPad and get whenever I need. I don't have to run when I only have time to touch on stuff. Lately, I've been into the patriotic thing. I just all of a sudden this year there's just been a lot of cute patterns, and I really like the blues and the reds and the whites, which is weird. Like I said, I don't like primary colors, but I've been picking tones of things that are very English. So like when we showed you America the Beautiful, I had a challenge with this one. I'm using Classic Colorworks, but the blues were really because this color richness you put on it. So it's really hard to find know that put on it. I changed the color 6 times at the store. They were super patient with me doing the floss toss on the fabric. And then when I started stitching on it, I changed it again. So what I'm ending with now is for the light blue, I'm using blueberry tarts, and then the blue I had picked, which was originally supposed to be deep blue sea, wouldn't show up on this fabric. I chose the blueberry tart, and then on this, you can see, that was supposed to be the blue, and it came out. And so I was kind of exacerbated with it, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna look stash box and just see. And I don't have a lot of weeks flosses, and so anything would work. Of course, there was one dark blue that worked really well. It was from, I think it must have been from the Serendipity. No, it wasn't on Serendipity. I don't know what project I used it on, but it's the Americana. See there, and it looks very tony. This, but I was looking for it. It's gonna look really good, the red and the white. So I was excited that could be more appropriate with like Americana. I hope I have enough in my stash to finish it. If I don't, I'll either be on Etsy or I don't know if I'll make it just for that. But there's also Stitch and Snip down in Garden Valley, and I saw a few strands of weeks. I don't know if they're just starting to carry them or what, but I'm hoping that they might have Americana in that little stash they had. So serious for me. And then PDF, I think a lot of that has to do with just it keeps snowing, and so I'm looking for color. A lot of Easter stuff. I did roots, tea towel, one with little bunnies. I'll show you a picture of that eventually when I figure out how to get pictures up or bring it over next time. I color changes a little, but we'll make it work. And then I also just got the Porter Shalong for Bountiful, and I'll change a little bit. It's really pretty butterflies on it. My older daughter, the 2-year-old, is into butterflies right now, so when I saw that, I got excited about it. Yep, and I made my donation in exchange for the pattern, and so it felt good to be able to do that and contribute towards the goal of kids get stitches. Other purchases, a little bit of a binge. I got this one here, Stitching with the Housewives, their little project. It was cute. It was a Porter shop, and now I'm keeping America Beautiful. And I will keep wanting to call it God Bless America Beautiful in here while I'm on it. It fits perfectly with my little. I bought the little Lori Holt. It's technically a design board, but this one is 7x7. Really and I that because we don't have a lot of tables, so I put on and stuff together, so I'm not constantly losing, especially with having little kids that want to grab all my stuff while I'm working. I had the probably 12x12 version of this for quilting. The current quilt project I'm working on right now, it's like a granny square scrap buster kind of thing. The blocks I was making were slightly bigger, so I also got like the 20x20 version of this so that I could lay out the block because there's no pattern on it. I just put it together, so I lay it out and then just sew it together without having to, which is great. I have these. They look like they're really easy to make. Quilt Holt has a video on how to make yourselves. And I got my timer energy, so I just bought them. If I get more of them, now that I look at it close up, in minutes. What else? Yeah. Final floss. We're really lucky that we have it's called the Reuse Market here. It's actually in Boise. When I say here, I mean the Boise County area. It's called the Reuse Market, and it's a thrift shop that specializes only in craft stuff, craft and art stuff. So I mean, or maybe you're stashing or have a stash of all kinds of craft stuff. You're not a craft person, you don't really know what to do with it. Maybe some of it's dated. So, excuse me, we had a cold in our family last week, and I'm finally, like, the congestion's finally getting out. So, um, talking this much is kind of getting it. So, anyways, when Blake died, she random craft stuff. Actually, I think from her mother. It was pretty vintage stuff, and we were taking a lot of it over there because we didn't know what happened with it. Otherwise, it could really just be. It was about 10 crafts over there. That was a few years ago. 4 years later than that.
We opened the
Yeah. So probably a bit ago. But it was really nice to have somewhere that I could take all stuff. Like I sell this all the stuff, which took forever. We didn't have to auction off. Know what the answer in these places would take. So it was nice to just take it where it wouldn't go to landfill, and it could possibly help out other crafters or new crafters. So where I'm going with that is I went back a few weeks ago to work on building a cross stitch stash, because especially linen is really expensive. So I wanted to see what else had been donated there, and they had a lot of like DMC floss. And so I got to buy a whole bunch of DMC floss, probably about 100 skeins for about 30 cents a skein. So it was like an instant stash that I was able to organize together. And yeah, now I have DMC collect for DMC for what I'm trying to do and have floss readily available. So I'm really thankful for that. I'm a I'm a trying environmentalist. My ecology and evolution, and so I used to environmental stuff. It's been harder with kids and where we live and not having access to things like recycling and stuff like that. And so it does really good to be able to show that keeps other stuff too much. Some bought more commercial brand at the shop, and then I don't know if I have it with me or not, from a shop. I'll have to find their name. Gal's name is Bonita. She sent me this really cute little pouch. These have a Beeswax pouch with a cute little arm on it. So it's a little pricier, but the packaging was wonderful. And then this nice little chunk of beeswax. Actually bought 2 of the chunks. It's got a little bee in it. It still smells like honey, like very much so honey. And then she had a little bee in there, tiny. So I'll probably try to put this in one of my shadow boxes, because especially with Honeybee Garden, I think I'll try to see if I can get it mounted in there without destroying that cute little bee. All right, so that's kind of the difficulty stuff I want to talk about. And the hard here first I have you talk about that I don't want to do that to you.
It's always next time.
There's always next. Let's hope there's just like by embroidering by it's playing. I wish it was. So if somebody wants to listen to a cross stitch, let me know. By it's technically about embroidery of Mary Scott. During her confinement, Elizabeth stowed away for competing for the throne of England. All that came from that. And so at the time, a lot of people read, obviously, Mary did read, but it was really then for verse messages. There's a lot more symbolism in it. So the book talks a lot about her story pieces and her symbolism, but it's a different way of biography than what you see with most Mary Queen biography things. It focuses on politics, what was going on in her life at the time. Also talk about the different textiles and their meanings. It was really a cool side of it that was more humanistic. So I was really excited about that, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it enough that I bought Claire's first book, Threads of Life, that I'm currently listening to right now. Blake gets to learn all the history. Secondhand, sitting in the passenger riding around. Kids get about all textile history. This is actually a book. Art and of Ornament by Donna Cardwell. I got this book on Abe Books. I found out about it through the Mary Fonz page. She had it on a reading list, and it's about 100 pages long, but it's a quick read because, just flipping through real quick, it's a lot of pictures. And it's about the kind of satin stitch work that was done during the late 1800s, early 1900s. Not just about the stitching itself, which could get, a little monotonous, but about how embroidery was used as a means for women, especially women who were widows, orphans, who had no real way of making money then, because women largely weren't allowed to have jobs, or there weren't very many jobs that were respectable to have. Embroidery is one of the things that women of any class or age could do to earn money. Around Victorian times, embroidery became super popular as home decoration. They went through the phase of more is more. Everything must be covered. Really great. Goods. So the book talks about the history, talks about some of the women and how they worked to get young girls trained in embroidery so that they could have an income for themselves or have some income. There talks schools and clubs in embroidery at the time, and there's a lot of cool, images of different advertisements at the time. There's a lot of pictures, I'm assuming from the author's personal collection, but probably museum work as well. And what's cool is each of these pictures, the description of the work and what made it special and give a value, what's the approximate price range as of when this book came out, which I think was, I want to say, a lot when someone tells you gives you what you're looking at, so that when you see if from the 1800s, you have more idea what you're looking at, what the significance of it was to the people that made it. That's one of my recent reads as well. I really enjoyed. I was in bed at night. Blake was so kind that this Smith put in a reading light that was nice. It had a red mode to keep him awake. I was in the living room myself all night. Okay, so what's going on at Quilt Idaho? We can get him to cross stitch eventually. We have Bring a Friend retreat coming up. Can you explain the Bring a Friend event?
Yeah, so the Bring a Friend event came about because we've had a lot of requests over the years from various people wanting to come to a retreat, but they didn't have a group that they wanted to organize or could organize. So this is kind of our best effort, our first attempt at trying to do something for those folks. So the Bring a Friend aspect is, because we're a 3-bedroom vacation rental, we are basically renting out the room, and it's based on number of beds. So we have 2 rooms that have the master bedroom, so to speak, has 3 beds. So this 25-person time, but you can bring one friend or bring a friend. You can just have your up. That is totally up to you. So it's April 20th through the 23rd, so it is coming up pretty quick. I'm available. So if you're interested at all, go to quiltidaho.com, click on our and it is listed in. And if you are interested at all at possibly come individually and want to stay or open to staying with another person that you are up to meeting when you come here, send us a, and we might be able to fit you in if we don't have anybody else for the room. Either send a message to a book or go to our website and you can get our contact information there. The other thing coming up is the Christmas in July retreat with our Judy Niemeyer, our certified instructor Matthew Moore. So this is our instructor led retreat. It's a bit different. We've never had any other retreats other than vacation rental style retreat. This retreat is a true individual retreat. It's per person. Um, you come, it's price per person. We are going to cater the retreat, so you don't really have to bring food other than snacks and anything specifically that you want to drink. But or right through the Idaho donations and food, and then for businesses. You'll get for the it's a smaller design.
Used as for there's patterns that Kathy will be teaching. You can do the Emerald Sea, or you can do the I think it's called Celebrations. So she'll be working on the project. It's a great idea for who's been interested in learning the Judy Niemeyer technique from a certified Judy Niemeyer instructor. A lot of one-on-one. It's 7% maximum, so you get for a retreat. It's a very small number, so you get a lot of instructor one-on-one time. It's a certified instructor, so you're learning the legit Niemeyer way. And because it's a small project, it's a queen size quilt by Judy Niemeyer. You can kind of get a taste of it. It makes for a great Christmas decoration in your home. That's why we're doing it in July, so you have time to make it by Christmas. Like give the Christmas gifts.
So, kind of individuals or treats, so to speak. If the Bring a Friend retreat goes well, we'll probably look to schedule those periodically throughout the year. And yeah, we're always looking for feedback and ideas on how to bring other retreat type things in here. So if you have any ideas, please let us know, and we will consider it in the future. So
yeah.
But yeah, otherwise we do have availability for traditional groups to come still for the summer, and we do have some fall dates in September.
You mean small groups,
November.
not traditional quilters necessarily, but small groups that want to have a little private UFO retreat.
Seven, our group, our retreat accommodate 7 guests. So check out Idaho. We do have a page there that talks about options and all of that stuff. So we'd love to have you.
I got some repair projects in work. From the 30s. Like it's from the quilting itself has been quilted maybe from the 80s or 90s, either I'm guessing with a pantograph. So I've been working on that. Yesterday I had it soaking in the tub because it's too fragile to put into the water as it is right now. So now I want to repair it. I think the person who had it, what I do with the quilt, I'll tell more about it later. There's a lot of I think so. I'm another one I'm working on, like that needs it 90 point. Yeah, and then those kind of big quilt runs that I had interest in. Recently, and we want to give it official. They do 6 months, and I'll be official. I got this last meeting they were talking about membership and how the embroidery. One of the problems with the embroidery average new like 7 and people out of it relatively quickly, and so they're really to get younger embroiderers with gens. They're such a high tech world now that actually if you are a cross stitcher embroiderer, especially if you're a younger cross stitcher embroiderer, please go to Google Embroidery America. It's nationwide build what they do, and there's a local chapter, and consider joining because you need to keep the organization, because right now the membership is declining really quickly. So yeah, hopefully we can get the next generation involved in embroidery and keep we don't lose old techniques and knowledge and have to figure that all out from scratch, right? What else? Blake might have a big Washington work trip coming up, and we're excited because we have recently this year hired someone to help us with maintaining the retreat, a little retreat helper. We have our team. Her son helps out too. So that gives us flexibility, especially during late spring and fall. And so on this Washington work trip, the girls on a trip the historical stuff out east and go check out some of the local shops over there. Yeah, really did if we drive out there to see a lot of just need a lot of yeah. Yeah, we brought it up and it's all across applique. Maybe I'll be scared to go in there without a machine and bringing my little travel machine.
We'll see how big of a trailer we can fit behind there, so
we'll see what happens. My stuff out there, but I'm not going to machine out there, at least not that I knew.
Yeah, no machine.
I've been more $5 one make sure I get going and use the machine because sometimes we have people come over that usually the come up here with a brand new machine to try their brand new machine. They get her cord or something like that. So I'd like to have some backup machines here available so that people, if a crisis happens, they have a simple machine that they can use. So I'm excited about that one. Those Kenmores around here go for between $820. So some for $5. I'm super excited. And again, it's about always excited. So thank you so much for putting with FlossTube. Hope we get a good percent. If we do, we'll keep trying to do more. I feel in the big world, I'd like to do one a week. I don't know if that's feasible for us with the girls, but we're trying. I said we'll see how it does and how people are, or it's.
This is pretty good.
That's what I'm actually hoping for people because we're two people say I have no idea.
This is about 3 minutes long hobby, so
well, I've called in about an hour, so you want it to be enough that you can sit having a chance, at least from my perspective. So thank you so much for hanging out with us first. You first FlossTube, QuiltTube, tubes. Right. So, watching on YouTube right now, please like our video and subscribe. I'd be so for our comments, you know, and our Instagram right now to get other people because I'm relative. I'm a quick learner though. So I'm absorbing it all during the night. Yeah. What else? If you have Twitch, please come find us and come hang out with us so we can have live chats. I used to teach college, and so I'm used to the whole interaction and talking and showing things. So I'd be super excited to be able to get some chats going. And
we want chatters that aren't trying to sell us. This person's name Wet Chemic. It's a bot.
Yeah. We're gonna figure out how Twitch, how the software works. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with it. So bear with us while we're figuring out how to put some visuals next time. We can show up in maybe a chat or two. So yeah, if you're interested in trying Twitch, I encourage it. It's a little weird if you've never used it before. It took me a minute, but there's a lot of people that follow Mary Fawn's on hers and they love it. And Twitch is super supportive of it. Twitch is, I guess, traditional. It's a new thing. It's owned by Amazon. So it's a real thing. It's not some random, you download the account, join. You can use your Amazon log. And then the other cool thing is because it's owned by Amazon, if you have Amazon Prime will let you have one free subscription on Twitch that you have to renew every month, and it's kind of convoluted, but that helps you support a channel each month if you don't want to pay out of pocket and you already have the Prime membership anyways. We need to get your sister to follow us. She has Twitch.
All right.
So get on that, and she can be our first follower.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
All right.
And so, what are you stitching right now? Yeah. And we'll share this on our Facebook page. You can find our website at www.quiltidaho.com. Newsletter, you can get 20% off your cart. It's a really good deal. Join that. I do the newsletter, and I may send out one newsletter a month, so we're not spamming you, and it's not just a bunch of junk. It just helps people around the area know what we're up to over here, and I'm not having some more like historical bloggy kind of stuff on there as well, because I really am into anything kind of women's history, especially like the concept of women's work and where that came from. And yeah, please like, subscribe, comment, and thank you so much. Excited. Yay.
Thank you, everybody. Woohoo.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.